The rain hammered against the cracked windows of the Brooks farmhouse as Talia pressed her back against her bedroom door, her hands shaking so badly she could barely grip the doorknob. Downstairs she could hear her father's voice, slurred and desperate, making promises she knew he had no right to make. Promises about her. About her future. About her body and her life as if they were his to trade away like the farm equipment he'd already sold to cover his gambling debts. "She'll do it," her father was saying. "My Talia's a good girl. She'll marry your boy and that'll square us up, right? The debt's cleared." Talia's stomach twisted. She was 23 years old, 3 months away from finishing her teaching certification, finally close to escaping this town and the poverty that had choked her family for generations. She had a job offer waiting in the city. She had plans. She had dreams that didn't involve becoming a bargaining chip in her father's endless cycle of bad decisions. But she also had a younger sister, Sophie, only 15, who needed food and clothes and a chance at high school. She had a mother whose medication cost more each month than their farm produced. And she had a father whose debts had grown so large that the men he owed money to had stopped being polite about collecting. The man upstairs, Mr. Harvey Mitchell, owned half the county. If her father didn't pay, they'd lose everything. Not just the farm but the very roof over their heads. Sophie would end up in foster care. Her mother would end up without her heart medication. And the price Mr. Mitchell was asking? Her hand in marriage to his son, Owen. The same Owen Mitchell who worked as a farmhand, who lived in a tiny cabin at the edge of town, who everyone said was a little slow, a little too quiet, a little too simple. The Mitchell family disappointment. Talia slid down the door until she sat on the floor, hugging her knees to her chest. Through the thin walls, she could hear her mother crying softly in the next room. Her mother knew. Of course she knew. In a house this small there were no secrets. "Talia?" Sophie's whisper came from the bed they shared. "You don't have to do this." But they both knew that was a lie. Talia did have to do this. Because the alternative was watching her family lose everything. Because sometimes love meant sacrifice. Because sometimes there were no good choices, only the least terrible one. Have you ever had to choose between your dreams and the people you love? What would you do if everything you'd worked for was about to slip away? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you're already hooked on Talia's story, hit that subscribe button because you won't want to miss what happens next. The next morning, Talia stood in the county courthouse wearing the only nice dress she owned, a simple blue cotton dress her mother had made 3 years ago for her high school graduation. Her father stood beside her, reeking of whiskey even at 9 in the morning, his hand gripping her elbow too tightly. Owen Mitchell stood across from her in clean work clothes, dark jeans and a green button-down shirt that looked new. He was taller than she remembered, maybe 6'2", with dark hair that curled slightly at the ends and brown eyes that seemed sad. He didn't look slow or simple. He looked uncomfortable and kind, which somehow made everything worse. "Do you, Talia Marie Brooks, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Judge Patterson asked, his voice bored. He'd done 3 weddings already that morning. Talia opened her mouth, closed it. She looked at Owen, really looked at him, trying to find some hint of the man she was about to legally bind herself to for life. He met her eyes and something flickered across his face. Guilt maybe. Or apology. "I do," she whispered. "Do you, Owen James Mitchell, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." His voice was deeper than she expected, steady and clear. "Then by the power vested in me by the state, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Owen leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. But where would she go? What would she do? So Talia stood still as he pressed a gentle, brief kiss to her lips. It was her first kiss. She'd been saving it, stupidly, for someone she loved. The courthouse steps were steep and Talia's legs felt weak as she descended them. Her father had already left, probably heading to the bar to celebrate his freed debt. Her mother and Sophie hadn't come. They couldn't bear to watch. An old red pickup truck sat at the curb. "That's mine," Owen said quietly. "I'll take you to the cabin. To our home. Our home." The words felt like stones in Talia's stomach. The drive took 15 minutes through winding country roads. Neither of them spoke. The radio stayed off. The only sound was the truck's engine and the crunch of gravel under the tires. The cabin sat at the edge of a wheat field, small and weathered but not falling apart. Smoke curled from the chimney. Someone had planted flowers in boxes under the windows, bright red geraniums that looked cheerful despite everything. Owen parked and came around to open her door. Talia climbed out, clutching the small bag that held everything she owned, 3 changes of clothes, her teaching books, a photo of her mother and Sophie, and the small savings she'd managed to hide from her father. $147. Her entire fortune. I know this isn't what you wanted, Owen said as they walked to the front door. I know you probably hate me right now. Talia didn't answer because what could she say? That she didn't hate him personally but hated the situation? That she hated her father and his weakness? That she hated poverty and circumstance and the unfairness of being born female in a world where women could still be traded like property? Owen opened the door. The inside of the cabin was simple but clean. One main room served as kitchen and living space, with a wood stove in the corner and a small table with 2 chairs. A faded blue couch sat against one wall. 2 doors led off the main room. That's the bathroom, Owen said, pointing to one door. And that's the bedroom. You can have it. I'll sleep on the couch. Talia's head snapped toward him. What? I'll sleep on the couch, he repeated, not meeting her eyes. I'm not going to force you into anything, Talia. I know this marriage wasn't your choice. I won't make it worse by expecting things you're not ready to give. Something in Talia's chest loosened slightly. She'd been bracing herself for the worst, for a wedding night she'd been dreading since her father first announced this arrangement. Why? She asked. Why did you agree to this? Owen finally looked at her and his eyes were so sad it hurt to see. My father doesn't give me much choice in things either, he said quietly. But I can give you choice where I'm able. The bedroom is yours. This marriage doesn't have to be anything more than a piece of paper if you don't want it to be. He grabbed a blanket from a closet and dropped it on the couch. I have to work tomorrow morning. There's food in the kitchen. Help yourself to anything. I'll be gone by 6 and back around 7 in the evening. Then he disappeared into the bathroom, leaving Talia standing alone in her new home, more confused than she'd been all day. That night, she lay in the small bedroom with its double bed and patchwork quilt, staring at the ceiling and listening to Owen's breathing from the couch in the next room. She'd expected anger or cruelty or at least coldness. She hadn't expected kindness. And she didn't know what to do with kindness from a man she'd been forced to marry. Talia woke to silence. The sun was already up, streaming through the thin curtains in yellow stripes across the quilt. She sat up slowly, disoriented by the unfamiliar room, before yesterday's reality crashed back into her consciousness. She was married. She was married to a stranger and living in a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and all her dreams of teaching in the city were gone. She forced herself out of bed and opened the bedroom door cautiously. The main room was empty. True to his word, Owen had left before 6. The blanket was folded neatly on the couch. A pot of coffee sat on the stove, still warm, with a note beside it written in surprisingly neat handwriting. Help yourself. Back around 7. Oh. Talia poured herself a cup and explored the cabin properly. It was small but surprisingly well kept. The wood stove was clean. The floors were swept. The kitchen area, though tiny, had basic supplies. Flour, sugar, coffee, canned goods, a few vegetables in a basket. A small bookshelf in the corner held maybe 20 books, mostly agricultural texts but also a few novels. The bathroom had a sink, toilet, and a small shower. Clean towels hung on a hook. A bar of plain soap sat in the dish. It was all so normal. So unexpectedly decent. Talia spent the day unpacking her few belongings and trying not to think about what she'd lost. Every time she pulled out one of her teaching textbooks, her throat got tight. She'd been so close. So impossibly close to a different life. By noon, she couldn't stand the cabin's walls anymore. She walked outside and followed a dirt path that led through the wheat fields. The day was beautiful, warm but not hot, with a breeze that made the wheat whisper. In the distance, she could see other farms, other houses, the small town where she'd grown up visible as a cluster of buildings about 2 miles away. She could walk there. She could walk home. Except it wasn't home anymore. Her father had made sure of that when he traded her away. Talia turned back to the cabin, her chest aching. That evening, Owen returned at exactly 7, just as he'd said. He came through the door carrying a paper bag from the grocery store in town. Hi, he said, looking uncertain. I picked up some fresh bread and vegetables. I thought I could make dinner. If you want. You cook? Talia asked, surprising herself by speaking. Enough to not starve. Owen's mouth quirked in something almost like a smile. Nothing fancy. But I can manage chicken and vegetables. He set to work in the small kitchen while Talia sat at the table, watching him move with easy efficiency. He chopped vegetables, seasoned the chicken, got everything cooking. He moved like someone comfortable in this space, like he'd done this 1,000 times. How long have you lived here? Talia asked. About 5 years, Owen said, stirring something in a pan. Since I was 21. By yourself? Yeah. That must be lonely. Owen glanced at her, something unreadable in his expression. Sometimes. But I like the quiet. They ate dinner at the small table, the silence less hostile than it had been in the truck the day before. The food was good, better than Talia expected. Simple but well prepared. "You're a good cook," she said. "Thanks. My mother taught me before she passed." "I'm sorry." Owen shrugged. "It was a long time ago. I was 12. After dinner, Owen washed dishes while Talia dried them. It felt bizarrely domestic, like they were a real couple instead of two people trapped in an arrangement neither wanted. "I need to find work," Talia said as she put away the last plate. "I can't just sit in this cabin all day." "You don't have to work. I make enough to support us both." "I'm not a kept woman," Talia said sharply. "I need my own money. My own purpose." Owen nodded slowly. "The diner in town is usually looking for waitresses. Betty who runs it is nice. I could introduce you if you want." "Yes," Talia said immediately. "Tomorrow." The next morning, Owen drove her into town before his shift. The Morning Cup Diner sat on Main Street, a small building with red vinyl booths and a counter with spinning stools. A bell chimed as they entered. Owen. A woman in her 50s with gray hair and a kind face looked up from behind the counter. "Twice in 1 week. I'm honored." "Hi, Betty. This is Talia. My wife." Owen said the word carefully, like he wasn't sure he had the right to use it. "She's looking for work. I thought you might need someone." Betty's eyebrows rose. "Wife? Owen Mitchell, you got married and didn't tell me?" "It was quick," Owen said, which was perhaps the understatement of the century. Betty looked between them, clearly sensing a story, but was kind enough not to push. "Well, I do need someone for the morning shift. 6 to 2, 5 days a week. $5.50 an hour plus tips. Can you start Monday?" "Yes," Talia said. "Absolutely. Thank you." "Thank Owen. He's the one who vouched for you." Betty smiled warmly. "Any friend of Owen's is good people in my book." As they left the diner, Talia felt the first small spark of something like hope. Her own job. Her own money. A first step toward independence, even if everything else in her life had been stripped away. "Thank you," she told Owen as they stood by his truck. "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. You didn't have to help me find work. You could have wanted me stuck in that cabin, dependent on you." Owen looked uncomfortable. "I told you. I'm not going to be that kind of husband. You should have choices." Over the next 2 weeks, a routine developed. Owen left early for work at what he said was a research farm owned by his father's company. Talia couldn't quite figure out what he did there, but he came home tired and sometimes dirty, smelling like earth and hay. She started at the diner and discovered she was good at it. She was quick, friendly, and good at remembering orders. The tips were decent. In the evenings they cooked dinner together. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. Owen was easy to be around, Talia discovered. He didn't push. He didn't demand. He seemed content to let her set the pace of everything. He fixed the squeaky hinge on the bedroom door without being asked. He brought home fresh flowers for the table every Friday. He learned how she liked her coffee and made sure it was ready each morning. And slowly, carefully, Talia felt her anger begin to shift into something more complicated. One evening, 3 weeks into the marriage, Talia came home from her shift to find Owen on the roof of the cabin, hammering new shingles into place. "What are you doing?" she called up. "Roof was leaking," he called back. "Noticed water stains in the bedroom corner. Thought I'd fix it before winter." Talia watched him work, his shirt stuck to his back with sweat, his movements efficient and sure. He was handsome, she realized with a start. She'd been so focused on resenting the situation that she hadn't really looked at him as a person. But he was handsome in a quiet way, with strong shoulders and gentle eyes and hands that were equally comfortable with tools and cooking. That night, after dinner, Owen cleared his throat nervously. "I wanted to ask you something," he said. Talia tensed. "Okay. I know you were studying to be a teacher. Before." He didn't say before your father ruined everything, but they both heard it. "The community college in Millbrook offers teaching certification courses. It's about a 30-minute drive. I was thinking, if you wanted to continue your education, I could help with that." Talia stared at him. "The courses cost money. I have some saved." "Why would you spend your savings on my education?" Owen met her eyes. "Because you should get to finish what you started. Because it's not fair that you had to give up your dreams. Because maybe I can't undo what happened, but I can try to make it a little less terrible." Talia felt tears prick her eyes. She'd been so careful not to cry, not to show weakness, but this unexpected kindness broke something open in her chest. I can't take your money, she whispered. It's not taking. It's accepting. There's a difference. Owen's voice was gentle. Please, Talia. Let me do this one thing. And Talia, remembering that kindness should be embraced, that hope should be chosen, nodded. Okay, she said. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Owen's smile was so bright it transformed his whole face. The Millbrook Community College campus was small but pretty, with brick buildings and old trees that were just starting to show autumn color. Talia stood in the parking lot, clutching her old textbooks to her chest, her stomach a knot of nerves and excitement. Owen had driven her here on a Saturday morning to register for classes. He'd paid the fees without blinking, even though Talia knew the amount had to be significant. He just handed over his card and signed the papers like it was nothing. You don't have to wait, Talia told him as they walked back to the truck. I can take the bus home. I don't mind waiting. I brought a book. He held up a thick paperback. Besides, I want to hear how it goes. So Owen sat in the truck reading while Talia attended the orientation session. She met her professors, got her class schedule, toured the education building. For 2 hours she got to be just a student again, just a woman with dreams and potential, not someone's unwanted wife. When she climbed back into the truck, she was smiling for the first time in weeks. Good? Owen asked. Really good. My classes start next week. Tuesday and Thursday evenings, plus Saturday mornings. I'll drive you whenever you need. You don't have to do that. I want to, Owen said simply. On the drive home, Talia found herself actually talking to him, telling him about the professors she'd met and the curriculum and how excited she was to get back to learning. Owen listened, asking questions, seeming genuinely interested. You light up when you talk about teaching, he said. It's all I've ever wanted to do. Even as a kid, I was always lining up my little sister and the neighbor kids, making them sit still while I taught them things. You'll be good at it. I can tell. Something warm bloomed in Talia's chest. It had been so long since anyone had believed in her. At the diner, Talia quickly became a favorite among the regular customers. There was Mr. Peterson, who came in every morning for black coffee and wheat toast. Mrs. Chen, who always ordered the soup of the day. A group of construction workers who filled the corner booth every lunch hour. And then there was Rachel, who started coming in on Talia's shifts. Rachel was about Talia's age with red hair and freckles, and she worked at the bank down the street. You're new in town, Rachel said one day, stirring sugar into her tea. Sort of. I grew up here but I've been living out at the Mitchell place. The Mitchell place? Rachel's eyes widened. You mean Owen Mitchell's cabin? I'm his wife, Talia said, still tripping over the word. You married Owen? Lucky you. Talia blinked. Lucky. Are you kidding? Owen Mitchell is the sweetest guy in this entire town. He volunteers at the youth center teaching kids about farming. He's always helping people fix things. Old Mrs. Warner's furnace broke last winter and Owen spent 3 days getting it working again, wouldn't take a penny. And he's cute as hell. Talia realized she'd never thought about how other people saw Owen. She'd been so wrapped up in her own resentment that she hadn't considered he might actually be a good person. How long have you known him? Talia asked. My whole life. We went to school together. He was always quiet but really kind. All the girls had crushes on him in high school, but he never seemed interested in dating. We all figured he was just focused on work. That night, Talia looked at Owen differently as he made dinner. She watched the care he took with small things, the way he hummed quietly while he cooked, the gentle way he moved around the small kitchen. Rachel from the bank says you're some kind of town hero, Talia said. Owen flushed. Rachel exaggerates. She says you help a lot of people. I just fix things sometimes. It's not a big deal. But it was a big deal, Talia thought. It spoke to character, to the kind of man he was when no one was forcing him to be anything. After dinner, they sat on the small porch as the sun set, painting the wheat fields gold. It was the first time they'd done this, just sat together in companionable silence. Can I ask you something? Talia said. Sure. Why did you really agree to marry me? Your father told mine it would settle debts, but you could have said no. You could have let your father find some other way to collect. Owen was quiet for a long moment. My father isn't a good man, he said finally. He uses people. He thinks money means he can do whatever he wants. But the thing is, if I'd said no, he would have found a worse way to collect from your family. At least this way I could make sure you were safe. That you were treated well. So you married me to protect me? I married you because I didn't want you to end up with someone who would hurt you. Owen turned to look at her. I know that doesn't make it better. I know you still lost your choices. But I've been trying to give back as many choices as I can. Talia's throat felt tight. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone cruel? Or stupid? Or someone who would use this situation to control me? I'm sorry people made you expect that. They sat in silence as the stars came out, and Talia felt the last of her anger begin to dissolve. Talia's first day of classes was on a Tuesday evening. Owen drove her to campus and waited in the parking lot like he'd promised. When she came out 2 hours later, energized and happy, he was sitting in the truck reading by the overhead light. How was it? He asked as she climbed in. Amazing. Professor Williams is tough but really good. We're starting with child development theory. Owen listened to her chatter the whole drive home, and Talia realized she'd started thinking of the cabin as home without quite noticing when it happened. That weekend, Owen's truck wouldn't start. He spent Saturday morning under the hood trying to figure out the problem. I think it's the starter, he said, wiping grease from his hands. I'll have to order a part. Might take a few days. How will you get to work? I'll figure something out. Maybe borrow a vehicle. What about my classes on Tuesday? Owen looked troubled. We'll work it out. Don't worry. But Talia did worry. Her education was important. She couldn't afford to miss classes, not when she'd already lost so much time. On Monday, Owen came home with a bicycle. It's not fancy, he said, looking embarrassed. But it works. You can ride it to the bus stop on the main road. The bus goes right past the college. Where did you get this? I saw it at the second-hand shop in town. Talia looked at the bike, at Owen's hopeful face, and felt something crack open in her chest. He'd spent money they didn't have much of to make sure she could get to class. He'd thought of her needs before his own transportation. Thank you, she said, and meant it more deeply than she'd meant anything in weeks. You're welcome. That night, Talia did something she hadn't done since the wedding. She sat next to Owen on the couch instead of taking the chair across the room. It was a small gesture, but Owen's surprised smile told her he noticed. They watched an old movie on the small TV, some western that was playing on the local channel. Halfway through, Talia's head drooped onto Owen's shoulder. She was so tired from work and class and the constant adjustment to this new life. Owen went very still. Then, carefully, he shifted so she was more comfortable. His arm came around her shoulders, gentle and warm. Talia knew she should move. Should maintain the distance she'd worked so hard to keep. But she was tired and he was warm, and for the first time in months she felt safe. So she stayed. October arrived with cool mornings and the smell of wood smoke. Talia had been married for 6 weeks, though it felt both longer and shorter than that. Her life had developed a rhythm. Early mornings at the diner, afternoons studying, evenings with Owen, and her classes twice a week plus Saturdays. Owen's truck had been fixed, but he kept the bicycle anyway. For backup, he said, but Talia suspected it was because he knew she'd grown to enjoy riding it on nice days, the independence of moving under her own power. One Thursday evening, Talia sat at the small table, surrounded by textbooks and notes, working on a paper about literacy development. Owen was making dinner, the smell of garlic and herbs filling the cabin. I need to start my practicum next semester, Talia said, chewing on her pencil. 20 hours a week in an actual classroom. That's good, right? Yes, but I'll have to cut my hours at the diner. Which means less money. Owen set down his spatula. Talia, you know you don't have to work at the diner. I make enough for both of us. I need my own money, Owen. We've talked about this. I know. But maybe you could think of it differently. Not as depending on me, but as both of us working toward your goal. You becoming a teacher benefits both of us. It's an investment in our future. Our future. Owen had started using phrases like that lately, talking about next year and plans and possibilities. Each time he did, Talia felt a little less like a prisoner and a little more like a partner. I'll figure something out, Talia said. They ate dinner, and afterward, Owen cleared his throat in that way he did when he was nervous about something. I have a proposition, he said. And I want you to really consider it before you say no. Talia set down her fork. Okay. The teaching certification program, the full thing, costs about $8,000 total. You've paid for 1 semester, but there are 3 more to go. Plus books, supplies, fees for the practicum. He took a breath. I want to pay for all of it. Owen, no. That's too much. Please just listen. I've been doing some extra work, taking on additional projects. I have the money. And I want to do this. I want you to be able to finish your education without having to work yourself to exhaustion. I want you to have the chance you should have had before your father ruined everything. Talia's eyes stung. Why would you do this for me? Owen reached across the table and took her hand. It was the first time he'd initiated physical contact beyond the accidental touches of living in close quarters. Because you deserve it, he said simply. Because you're smart and talented and you're going to be an incredible teacher. Because I was part of the reason your first chance got taken away and I want to help you get it back. And because, he paused. Because I care about you, Talia. You're not just an obligation to me. You're my friend. Maybe you could even become more than that someday if you wanted. Talia's heart pounded. She looked at their joined hands, at Owen's open, honest face, at the life they'd been building in this small cabin. She thought about refusing. About insisting on her independence. About protecting herself from getting too attached to this man she'd been forced to marry. But she also thought about kindness and hope, and the person Owen had shown himself to be over these past weeks. She thought about the rules she'd set for herself. When kindness is offered, accept it with gratitude. Okay, she whispered. Owen's face lit up. Yes. Yes. I'll accept your help. But only because you're right. It's an investment in both of our futures. She squeezed his hand. Thank you, Owen. For everything. For being patient with me. For being kind. For seeing me as more than just an obligation. You were never just an obligation, Owen said softly. That weekend, Owen took Talia to the college to pay her tuition for the remaining semesters. The woman in the bursar's office looked at the payment amount and blinked. You're paying the full balance? Yes, ma'am, Owen said, handing over his card. When the transaction went through without any issues, Talia looked at Owen curiously. How much extra work have you been doing? Enough, he said vaguely. Don't worry about it. But Talia did wonder. Owen worked regular hours at what he said was a research farm, yet he seemed to have more money than a farmhand should. He'd paid for her classes without blinking. The cabin always had good food. He'd bought the bicycle and fixed the truck and never seemed stressed about finances. Owen, what exactly do you do at your job? She asked as they drove home. Agricultural research. Testing new growing techniques, analyzing soil samples, that kind of thing. And that pays well? Well enough. Owen's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. My father owns the company, so I get paid decently. It made sense, Talia supposed. And she was too happy about having her education secured to push harder. At the diner, Talia told Betty she'd need to reduce her hours the following semester. No problem, honey. I'm proud of you for finishing school. Betty wiped down the counter. Owen must be a good man, supporting your dreams like this. He is, Talia said and realized she meant it completely. Rachel came in during Talia's shift and ordered her usual tea. You look happy, Rachel observed. I am, I think. Owen paid for the rest of my teaching certification. Of course he did. That's so Owen. Rachel smiled. You know, a bunch of us are getting together at the community center Friday night. Just a casual thing, some music and dancing. You and Owen should come. I don't know if that's really our thing. Come on. You've been married 2 months and I bet you haven't been on a single date. Come have fun. Meet some people your age. Talia promised to ask Owen. That evening, she mentioned the invitation while they washed dishes together. We don't have to go if you don't want to, she said. I know you're pretty private. No, we should go. It would be good for you to make friends. And I'd like to take you out, have a normal evening together. Friday night, Talia pulled out the only other nice dress she owned, a red sundress she'd bought years ago at a thrift store. She put on a little makeup, something she rarely bothered with anymore, and brushed her hair until it shone. When she came out of the bedroom, Owen froze. You look beautiful, he said, his voice rough. Thank you. You clean up pretty nice yourself. Owen wore dark jeans and a maroon button-down that brought out the warm tones in his brown eyes. He'd shaved and combed his hair back and Talia's heart did a little flip. The community center was packed with people. Music played from speakers and someone had strung lights across the ceiling. Rachel waved them over to where a group was gathered. Everyone, this is Talia and Owen. Talia met a dozen people whose names she tried to remember. They were all friendly, welcoming her and teasing Owen about finally bringing a date to one of these things. Owen never comes to social events, Rachel told Talia. This is historic. They ate potluck food and talked and laughed. Owen was different here, more relaxed than Talia had seen him. He joked with the guys and told stories about growing up in the area. Several people mentioned times Owen had helped them with various problems. When slow music started playing, couples moved to the makeshift dance floor. Want to dance? Owen asked, holding out his hand. Talia took it and let him lead her into the crowd. He pulled her close, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers. They swayed to the music, and Talia rested her head against his chest, hearing his heartbeat through the thin fabric of his shirt. This is nice, she murmured. Yeah, it really is. They stayed like that for 3 songs, just holding each other and swaying. Talia felt something shift inside her, something that had been guarded and locked opening up. She was falling for him, she realized. Despite everything, despite how this had started, she was falling for her own husband. And the scary part was she didn't want to stop it. On the drive home, Owen reached over and took her hand. Talia laced their fingers together and watched the dark countryside roll past. "I had a really good time tonight," Owen said. "Me too. Talia, I know this marriage started wrong. I know you didn't choose this. But I'm really glad you're in my life." "I'm glad too," Talia said, and meant it. That night, when they got home, they stood in the main room of the cabin, neither quite ready to separate into their usual sleeping arrangements. "Owen?" Talia said softly. "Yeah. Would you like to watch a movie with me? Like actually sit together instead of at opposite ends of the couch?" Owen's smile was brilliant. "I'd love that." They curled up together on the small couch, Talia tucked under Owen's arm, and watched some late-night movie neither of them paid much attention to. Talia was too aware of Owen's warmth, his steady breathing, the way his thumb traced small circles on her shoulder. When the movie ended, they reluctantly separated. "Good night, Talia," Owen said. "Good night." She hesitated, then stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. "Thank you for tonight." Owen touched the spot where she'd kissed him, looking dazed. "Anytime." Talia went to bed with a smile on her face, her heart lighter than it had been in months. November brought cold rain and the first hints of winter. Talia's practicum started, placing her in a second-grade classroom at Millbrook Elementary 3 mornings a week. She was nervous that first day, but the moment she walked into the classroom and saw 20 small faces looking up at her, something clicked into place. This was where she belonged. The supervising teacher, Mrs. Patterson, was a warm woman in her 50s who immediately made Talia feel welcome. "Just jump right in," Mrs. Patterson said. "The best way to learn is by doing." Talia taught her first reading lesson that day, gathering a small group of students around her for a phonics exercise. Their enthusiasm was infectious. When one little boy finally sounded out a difficult word he'd been struggling with, his face lit up with pride and Talia felt her heart swell. "You did it, Marcus," she said, then froze. Marcus. That was one of the names she'd been trying to avoid, but the child was real and right in front of her. "I did it," the boy shouted, bouncing in his seat. That evening, Talia burst through the cabin door, still energized from her day. "Owen, it was amazing. The kids are so smart and funny and eager to learn. I taught them about vowel sounds and this one little girl told me I explained it better than her mom does. I mean, can you believe that? Me actually helping someone learn." Owen looked up from the vegetables he was chopping, his smile soft. "I can absolutely believe it. Tell me everything." So Talia did, talking non-stop while she helped prepare dinner, describing each student and the lessons and how Mrs. Patterson had complimented her natural teaching style. Owen listened to every word, asking questions, celebrating her small victories. After dinner, they moved to the couch like they'd been doing every evening for the past few weeks. It had become their routine, sitting close, sometimes watching TV, sometimes just talking, Talia's head on Owen's shoulder or his arm around her waist. "I'm really proud of you," Owen said, pressing a kiss to her hair. Talia's breath caught. These small gestures had become more frequent. A kiss on the forehead, holding hands, sitting close enough that their bodies touched. They hadn't talked about what it meant, this slow progression toward something more than friendship. "Thank you for making this possible," Talia said. "I wouldn't be there without you. You would have found a way. You're determined enough." "Maybe. But it would have taken years instead of months." The rain hammered on the roof and the wood stove crackled warmly. Talia shifted closer to Owen's warmth. "Can I tell you something?" Owen said quietly. "Of course. I think I'm falling in love with you." Talia's heart stopped, then started again in double time. She sat up to look at Owen's face. He looked nervous but sincere, his brown eyes searching hers. "I know I shouldn't say it," he continued. "I know this situation is complicated and I don't want to pressure you. But I've been feeling it for weeks now and I needed to be honest. The way you light up when you talk about teaching. The way you're kind to everyone at the diner. The way you've tried so hard to make the best of a situation you never wanted. I see you, Talia. All of you. And I'm falling in love with what I see." Talia's eyes filled with tears. "I think I'm falling for you too," she whispered. "I've been trying not to. I've been telling myself it's too fast, too complicated, that I'm just confused because you're kind to me. But Owen, when I come home and see your truck in front of the cabin, my whole day gets brighter. When you smile at me I feel warm all over. When we sit together like this, I don't want it to end. Owen cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away her tears. Can I kiss you? Like really kiss you? Yes, Talia breathed. Owen leaned in slowly, giving her time to change her mind. But Talia didn't want to change her mind. She met him halfway, her hands fisting in his shirt. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, learning. Then it deepened and Talia felt heat spread through her entire body. Owen's arms came around her, pulling her closer, and she went willingly, pressing against him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Owen rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that for so long, he murmured. Why didn't you? I was waiting for you to be ready. I would have waited forever if that's what you needed. Talia kissed him again, softer this time. I don't want you to sleep on the couch anymore. Owen pulled back to look at her. Are you sure? I'm sure. I want to fall asleep next to my husband. My real husband, not just on paper. That night, they lay in the double bed together, Talia curled into Owen's side, his arm around her shoulders. They didn't do anything but hold each other and talk in whispers until they fell asleep. But it felt momentous anyway, this new closeness, this choice to be together in all the ways that mattered. The next few weeks were the happiest of Talia's life. She threw herself into her practicum, developing lesson plans and working with students. She continued her shifts at the diner, where the regulars noticed her bright mood. Someone's glowing, Betty teased. Married life must be treating you well. It is, Talia admitted. At home she and Owen grew closer every day. They cooked together, cleaned together, studied together while Owen read his agricultural journals. They kissed often, held hands, fell asleep tangled together. Owen continued showing his thoughtfulness in small ways. He left notes in her teaching books. You're going to be great today. He learned to make her favorite breakfast. He bought a space heater for the bedroom because he noticed she got cold at night. One Saturday, Talia came home from her morning class to find Owen had rearranged the cabin. He'd moved the table to create a small study area for her, with better light and a bookshelf for her teaching materials. You did this for me? She asked, tears in her eyes. You need a proper workspace. You're always hunched over your books in bad light. Talia threw her arms around him and kissed him thoroughly. Thank you. For everything. For seeing what I need before I even know I need it. Thanksgiving approached and Talia's mother called. Will you come for dinner? Her mother asked hesitantly. I know things have been difficult. But I miss you, honey. Sophie misses you. Talia wanted to say no. She was still angry at her father, still hurt by how easily he'd traded her away. But she also missed her mother and sister desperately. I'll come, she said. But Owen comes with me. Of course. She told Owen about the invitation that evening. You don't have to go if you don't want to, he said. I know your relationship with your father is complicated. I want to see my mom and Sophie. And I want them to see that I'm okay. That I'm actually happy. Thanksgiving Day they drove to the Brooks farm. Talia's stomach churned as they pulled up to the shabby farmhouse. Owen squeezed her hand. I'm right here with you, he said. Sophie flung the door open before they even knocked, launching herself at Talia. I missed you so much, her sister cried. I missed you too, sophomore. Her mother hugged her next, holding on tight. You look good, honey. You look happy. I am happy, Mom. Her father sat in his chair by the window, looking older and smaller than Talia remembered. He didn't get up. Dinner was awkward at first. Her father barely spoke. But Sophie chattered nonstop, asking Talia about teaching in the diner and what married life was like. Her mother kept serving more food as if she could make up for past hurts with mashed potatoes. Owen was polite and kind, answering questions, complimenting the food, treating everyone with respect even though he had every reason to be angry at Talia's father. After dinner, Sophie pulled Talia aside. Is he nice to you? Her sister asked quietly. Your husband? He's very nice to me, sophomore. He's kind and patient and he's helping me finish my teaching degree. I was so worried. After Dad made you marry him, I was scared he'd be mean. I was scared too. But Owen's a good man. Better than I had any right to hope for. As they were leaving, Talia's father finally spoke. Talia. She turned, her body tense. I'm sorry, he said, his voice rough. I know that doesn't fix anything. But I'm sorry for what I did to you. You deserved better. Talia didn't know what to say. The apology didn't erase the hurt. But it was something. Okay, she said finally. I'm going to go now. In the truck, Owen reached for her hand. You okay? Yeah. It was hard, but I'm glad I went. I got to see Mom and Sophie. Your sister seems great. She is. She's the best part of my family. They drove home in comfortable silence, and Talia realized that the cabin truly was home now. More than the farmhouse where she'd grown up. The cabin was where she felt safe and loved and seen. That night, as they lay in bed, Talia traced patterns on Owen's chest. "I love you," she said. Owen's arms tightened around her. "I love you too. So much. I know this marriage started wrong. But I think we're making it right. We are. We really are." Talia fell asleep smiling, grateful for this unexpected love, this life she was building with a man who had started as a stranger and become her everything. December arrived with snow and the holiday season. Talia finished her first semester of practicum with glowing reviews from Mrs. Patterson. Her students had made her cards and drawn pictures of her. One little girl had written, "Miss Talia is the best teacher ever," and Talia had cried when she read it. "Look at you," Owen said, reading the evaluation letter from the college. "Perfect scores in every category. I knew you'd be amazing." They celebrated with dinner at the diner, Betty giving them free pie because she was so proud of Talia's accomplishment. Rachel and some other friends joined them, turning it into an impromptu party. Life was good. Better than good. Talia was in love with her husband, thriving in her studies, and looking forward to her final semester before becoming a fully certified teacher. But then small things started happening. Strange things that didn't quite add up. The first incident was a phone call. Talia was making dinner while Owen read on the couch. His phone rang and he glanced at the screen, his whole body going tense. "I need to take this," he said, stepping outside into the cold. Through the window, Talia watched him pace, his free hand running through his hair in agitation. He was outside for 15 minutes. When he came back in, he looked stressed. "Everything okay?" Talia asked. "Yeah, just work stuff. Nothing important." But it seemed important based on his reaction. A few days later, Owen told her he had to make a sudden trip to the city. "I'll be gone overnight," he said. "There's a problem at the research facility that I need to handle in person." "On a Saturday?" "Agricultural emergencies don't respect weekends." He kissed her forehead. "I'm sorry. I know we were supposed to go Christmas shopping." "It's okay. Be safe." Owen left early Saturday morning. Talia spent the day studying and cleaning the cabin. In the afternoon, she walked into town to do some errands. She was coming out of the hardware store when she saw Rachel. "Hey," Rachel called. "Want to grab coffee?" They went to the small coffee shop on Main Street. While they were talking, Rachel glanced out the window and frowned. "That's weird," she said. "What?" "I just saw someone who looked exactly like Owen getting out of a really expensive car. Like a Mercedes or something. But it couldn't have been him because Owen's out of town, right?" Talia's stomach dropped. "Right. Must have been someone who looks like him." But she couldn't shake the image. Why would someone who looked like Owen be in town when Owen was supposedly in the city? And why would he be getting out of an expensive car? That evening, Owen returned home. He looked tired but happy to see her. "How was the city?" Talia asked. "Fine. Boring. I'm glad to be home." He pulled her into a hug. "I missed you." "I missed you too." She didn't mention what Rachel had said. She told herself it was just a case of mistaken identity. But then there was the matter of the groceries. Talia had been managing their household budget carefully. She knew approximately how much Owen made from his job because they'd discussed finances. It was decent but not extravagant. Enough to cover their bills, her tuition, and regular expenses with a little left over. But lately the grocery bill had gone up. Owen was buying nicer cuts of meat, fresh fish, expensive cheeses, good wine. Things that didn't fit their budget. "Owen, we should probably stick to cheaper groceries," Talia said gently one evening. "These steaks are really expensive." "I wanted to treat us. We're celebrating your semester success." "I know, but we need to be careful with money." "Talia, we're fine. Trust me." But how were they fine? The numbers didn't add up. Then Talia noticed Owen's clothes. He'd always dressed simply, jeans, work shirts, practical boots. But a few new items had appeared in the closet. A really nice jacket. A pair of dress shoes that looked expensive. A watch she'd never seen before. "Where did this come from?" she asked, holding up the watch. "All that. Work gave it to me. An employee appreciation thing." It was possible. But Talia had worked enough jobs to know that regular farmhands didn't usually get expensive watches as appreciation gifts. The phone calls continued. Several times a week, Owen would get a call and step outside or go into the bathroom for privacy. He always came back looking stressed. "Is everything okay with work?" Talia asked after one such call. "It's fine. Just complicated family business stuff. My father likes to make everything difficult." That made sense. Owen had mentioned his father was demanding. But why the secrecy? One afternoon, Talia was doing laundry and found a receipt in Owen's jeans pocket. It was from a high-end men's clothing store in the city. The total was over $1,500. $1,500 for clothes? That was more than they spent on groceries in a month. That was half of Talia's tuition for a semester. She stared at the receipt, her mind spinning. Where was Owen getting this kind of money? That night, she tried to bring it up casually. Have you been doing a lot of extra work lately? I feel like I never see you with extra cash, but we've been spending more. Owen looked uncomfortable. I picked up some consulting projects, helping other farms with their techniques. It pays pretty well. That's great, Talia said, but doubt gnawed at her. A few days before Christmas, Talia went to the post office to mail cards to her family. While she was there, Mrs. Henderson, who ran the post office, pulled her aside. Talia, dear, I wanted to make sure everything's all right. Of course. Why? Well, it's just that I saw your husband the other day getting out of a town car. With a driver. And he was wearing a suit. I thought maybe there was a family emergency or something. A town car. With a driver. A suit. Everything's fine, Talia managed. He probably had a meeting. But her hands shook as she walked back to the cabin. What was going on? Who was her husband really? That evening she tried searching for Owen online. She'd never thought to do it before. She typed Owen Mitchell into the search engine at the library computer. The results were all about elderly men named Owen Mitchell, or a football player, or random people on social media. Nothing about her Owen. She tried Owen Mitchell Agricultural Research. Still nothing relevant. She tried Mitchell Agricultural Corporation, the company Owen said his father owned. The company website came up. It was a huge operation, apparently worth billions. They did farming research but also owned food processing plants, distribution networks, and farmland across multiple states. She clicked on the About Us page and scrolled to the leadership section. And there was Owen. Her Owen. Listed as Owen James Mitchell Jr., Chief Executive Officer. Talia stared at the screen, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst out of her chest. Chief Executive Officer. Of a billion-dollar company. Her farmhand husband, who lived in a tiny cabin and claimed to work at a research farm, was actually the CEO of a massive agricultural corporation. The photo showed him in an expensive suit, his hair styled, looking confident and powerful. He looked like a completely different person from the man who came home in dirty jeans and made her dinner every night. Talia's hands shook so badly she had to grip the edge of the desk. Everything was a lie. Everything. Or was it? She thought about the money, the phone calls, the mysterious trips to the city, the expensive items that kept appearing. It all made sense now. Horrible, complicated sense. But why? Why would a billionaire CEO pretend to be a simple farmhand? Why would he live in a cabin and work at his own company anonymously? And what did it mean for their marriage? Had this whole thing been some kind of game to him? Was she a project, a charity case he was amusing himself with? Talia logged off the computer, her mind reeling. She walked back to the cabin in a daze, not even feeling the cold. When she got home, Owen was making dinner like always, humming to himself like everything was normal. Hey, you're back, he said brightly. I'm making that pasta you like. How was the post office? Talia looked at him, this man she thought she knew, this man she'd fallen in love with. And she didn't know what to say. How do you ask someone if they've been lying about their entire identity for 4 months? Fine, she managed. It was fine. But nothing was fine. And Talia had no idea what to do about it. Talia couldn't sleep that night. She lay next to Owen, his arm draped over her waist like always, but her mind was racing. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that photo from the website. Owen in a suit, looking powerful and wealthy. Owen the CEO. Not Owen the farmhand who fixed leaky roofs and made her breakfast. Who was the real man lying next to her? She must have dozed eventually because she woke to morning light and Owen's side of the bed empty. She found a note on the kitchen table. Early meeting. Sorry. Back for dinner. Love you. Love you. Did he love her? Or was this whole thing some elaborate deception? Talia got ready for her shift at the diner on autopilot. Her mind kept spinning through possibilities, trying to make the pieces fit. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe the website was wrong or outdated. Maybe Owen had stepped down from the CEO position and that's why he was working at the research farm. But even as she thought it, she knew it wasn't true. The watch, the clothes, the money, the mysterious phone calls. It all added up to something she'd been too trusting to see. At the diner, she messed up orders and spilled coffee. Betty pulled her aside during the lunch rush. Honey, what's going on? You're not yourself today, I'm fine. Just tired. Is everything okay with Owen? Talia's eyes filled with tears. I don't know. Betty hugged her tight. Whatever it is, you two will figure it out. That boy loves you something fierce. I've known him since he was little, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Since he was little. Betty knew Owen. She'd known him his whole life. Did she know who he really was? Betty, Talia said carefully. What do you know about Owen's family? Betty's expression shifted, becoming guarded. What do you mean? His father. The company he owns. What do you know? Talia, I think those are questions you should ask Owen. So Betty knew. She'd known all along that Owen wasn't just a simple farmhand. Did everyone know except me? Talia whispered. Oh honey, it's not like that. Owen's story is his to tell, not mine. But I will say this, whatever you're worried about, talk to him. That boy is genuine. He might have his reasons for things, but his heart is real. Talia finished her shift in a fog. She went home and tried to study for her upcoming finals, but the words swam on the page. When Owen came home that evening, he looked stressed. He loosened his tie as he walked in, then froze when he realized what he'd done. Talia stared at the tie. The expensive silk tie he was wearing with dress pants and a button-down shirt instead of his usual work clothes. Talia, he said carefully. I can explain. Can you? Her voice came out sharper than she intended. Can you explain the lie you've been living for 4 months? Owen's face went pale. You know. I know that you're not a farmhand. I know that you're actually Owen Mitchell Jr., CEO of Mitchell Agricultural Corporation. I know that you've been lying to me about who you are since the day we met. Owen set down his briefcase and ran his hands through his hair. I wasn't lying. Not exactly. Not exactly? Owen, you let me believe you were poor. You let me worry about money. You live in this tiny cabin and drive an old truck and work in jeans and pretend to be someone you're not. I know. I know it looks bad. But please let me explain. Then explain. Owen sank onto the couch, looking defeated. I don't know where to start. Start with the truth. Start with who you really are. He took a deep breath. Okay. Yes, I'm the CEO of Mitchell Agricultural Corporation. I'm worth about $3 billion. I have a house in the city, an apartment in New York, more cars than I can drive. I could buy almost anything I wanted. Each word felt like a blow. Talia sat down in the chair across from him, needing distance. But I hate that life, Owen continued. I hate the fakeness of it. I hate people who only see my money, who only want to be around me because of what I can give them or what connections I can provide. I hate board meetings and society dinners and all the expectations that come with being Harvey Mitchell's son. So you decided to play dress up as a poor person? No. I decided to live the life I actually wanted. 5 years ago, I bought this property. I registered it under a different name. I started working at my own company's research farm, but I used my middle name and dressed like the other workers. Nobody there knows who I really am. And for a few hours each day I get to just be Owen. Not Owen Mitchell Jr., billionaire. Just Owen. And me? Talia asked, her voice breaking. Was I part of the game? The poor girl you could play savior to? No. Owen leaned forward, his eyes intense. Talia, no. You were never a game. When my father told me about the debt arrangement, I was furious. I tried to talk him out of it. But he wouldn't budge. He said if I didn't marry you, he'd send his collectors to make sure your family lost everything, including your mother's ability to get her medication. He would have destroyed your whole family. So you married me to save me? I married you because I couldn't stand the thought of what would happen if I didn't. And yes, I should have told you who I was immediately. I know that. But I was scared. Scared of what? Scared that if you knew I was rich, you'd see me differently. Scared that you'd wonder if I was using you or trapping you. Scared that you'd never be able to see past the money to the actual person I am. Owen's voice cracked. And then as time went on and we started actually building something real, I was scared that telling you the truth would destroy it. I kept meaning to tell you. I've been trying to work up the courage for weeks. But I didn't know how to say it without losing you. Talia wrapped her arms around herself. Did you mean any of it? The things you said about falling in love with me? Every word. Owen moved to kneel in front of her chair, but didn't touch her. Talia, you're the first person in years who's seen me as just a man. Not as money or status or connections. You got mad at me for spending too much on groceries. You worried about me having enough saved for your tuition. You treated me like an equal, like a partner. Do you know how rare that is? How precious. But you weren't an equal. You were secretly a billionaire the whole time, letting me worry about pennies while you probably have more money than I can even imagine. I know it was wrong. But I didn't know how to tell you without changing everything between us. Talia stood up, needing to move. I need time. I need to think. Okay. Whatever you need. I'm going to stay with Rachel for a few days. Owen's face crumpled. Don't go. Please. We can figure this out. I can't be here right now, Owen. I can't look at you without wondering what else you've lied about. I'll tell you everything. Anything you want to know. I don't even know what questions to ask. Talia grabbed her jacket. I need space. She walked out of the cabin and down the dark road toward town. Behind her, she heard Owen call her name, but she didn't turn around. Rachel took her in without questions, just hugged her and made tea and set up the spare room. That night, Talia lay in a strange bed and cried until she had no tears left. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from Owen. I'm so sorry. Please come home. I love you. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. Tell me what to do. She turned off her phone and stared at the ceiling. The man she'd fallen in love with was real. She believed that. The kindness, the patience, the way he listened to her dreams and supported her goals. That was real. But he'd also been lying to her, every single day about something fundamental. And she didn't know if she could forgive that. Talia spent 3 days at Rachel's house. 3 days of Rachel tiptoeing around her, bringing her tea and tissues, not pushing but clearly worried. 3 days of her phone lighting up with messages from Owen that she couldn't bring herself to read. 3 days of feeling like her whole world had tilted sideways. On the 4th morning, there was a knock at Rachel's door. Talia was still in pajamas, her eyes swollen from crying. Rachel answered it and then came back to the bedroom. Owen's here, she said gently. He looks rough. You want me to send him away? Talia's heart clenched. Part of her wanted to hide, to make him hurt the way she was hurting. But another part, the part that still loved him despite everything, needed to see him. No. I'll talk to him. Owen stood on Rachel's porch looking like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red-rimmed, his hair uncombed, his clothes wrinkled. He looked up when Talia came to the door. Thank you for seeing me, he said quietly. Let's walk, Talia said. She didn't want to have this conversation with Rachel listening through the walls. They walked to the small park in the center of town, sitting on a bench near the frozen pond. For a long moment, neither spoke. I've been doing a lot of thinking, Owen said finally. About what I should have done differently. About why I made the choices I made. And I realized that I was being selfish. Talia looked at him. I wanted to keep living in my fantasy world where I was just a normal guy with a wife who loved him for who he was, not what he had. I told myself I was protecting what we had. But really, I was protecting myself. I was scared of losing you. And in trying to prevent that, I made it happen anyway. Yes, Talia said. You did. So I'm here to give you what I should have given you from the start. Complete honesty. You can ask me anything and I'll tell you the truth. No more hiding. Talia pulled her jacket tighter. Okay. Tell me about your real life. The one I don't know about. Owen took a deep breath. I'm the CEO of Mitchell Agricultural Corporation. We're worth about $4 billion. We own farmland in 12 states, 3 processing plants, and we supply food to most of the major grocery chains in the country. I have about 200 people who report directly to me, and about 15,000 employees total. The numbers were so big they didn't feel real. I have a house in the city, Owen continued. 6 bedrooms, pool, the whole thing. I have a personal assistant, a driver, a housekeeper. I sit on 5 different boards. I attend charity galas and business dinners and all the things wealthy people do. So why the cabin? Why the secret life? Because that life is suffocating. My father groomed me to take over the company from the time I was a kid. I didn't get to choose my major in college, my career path, or even most of my friends. Everything was about business connections and networking. The only rebellion I managed was buying this property and carving out a few hours a week where I could be anonymous. And the research farm job? I own the research farm. It's part of the company. But I work there hands-on because I actually love agriculture. I love the science of it, the growing, the innovation. That part wasn't fake. My work there is real, even if nobody knows I'm the boss. Talia processed this. What about the money you spent on me? My tuition, the bicycle, all of it? That was pocket change to me. I know that sounds terrible. But Talia, your entire teaching certification cost less than I spend on a single suit. The money was never an issue. I wanted to help you because I care about you, not because it was any kind of sacrifice. That stung more than Talia expected. She'd been so grateful, so moved by what she thought was Owen making a real sacrifice for her. But it had cost him nothing. "I know you're thinking it meant less because it wasn't a sacrifice," Owen said, reading her expression. "But that's not true. The money might not have mattered, but the choice did. I chose to invest in your dreams. I chose to support your goals. Rich or poor, those choices would have been the same. Would they? Or is this all just some rich guy playing at being normal and I'm the entertainment?" "No." Owen turned to face her fully. "Talia, I fell in love with you. Really truly fell in love. The way you talk about your students with such passion. The way you're kind to everyone at the diner. The way you sing off-key while you cook and leave your books everywhere and steal all the blankets at night. I love you. Not as a project or entertainment. As my wife. As my partner. As the person I want to spend my life with." Talia's eyes burned with tears. "But you lied to me. Every day. Every time I worried about money or made budget-conscious decisions or felt grateful for your sacrifices, you were lying." "I know. And I will regret that for the rest of my life. I should have told you immediately. Or at least after we started to actually fall for each other. I was wrong." "What happens now?" Talia asked. "Do you expect me to just move into your mansion and become some society wife? That's not who I am, Owen. I don't expect anything. I'm offering you choices. Real choices this time." Owen reached into his pocket and pulled out some papers. "This is a prenuptial agreement. I know we're already married, but my lawyers drew it up as a postnuptial agreement. If you sign it, you'll be guaranteed $50 million if you decide to divorce me. Plus the cabin and property, which I've already transferred to your name. You'll never have to worry about money again, whether you stay with me or not." Talia stared at the papers. $50 million. The number was so large it felt meaningless. "I don't want your money," she said. "I know. But I want you to have security. I want you to know that you have real options. You can leave me right now, take the money and build whatever life you want. You can finish your teaching degree and open your own school. You can travel the world. You can do anything. Or," he paused, "or you can stay. Not because you're trapped or because you have no other choices. But because you choose to. Because you love me despite my massive screw-up. Because you believe we can build something real together. And if I stay, what does that look like? Do you keep living two lives? No. If you stay, I'll tell everyone the truth. We can live in the city if you want, or stay at the cabin, or split our time. We can start a foundation together, help other people get their education. We can do whatever you want. I'll step back from some of my CEO duties if it means more time with you. The company can run without me micromanaging everything." Owen took her hands. "Talia, I'm offering you everything I have. Not just the money, but the real me. All my flaws and mistakes and the complicated mess of my life. I know I don't deserve another chance. But I'm asking for one anyway. Because I love you. Because you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Because I want to spend the rest of my life proving that who I am with you is who I really am, not the performance I put on for the business world." Talia looked at their joined hands. She thought about the past 4 months. The dinners they'd cooked together. The way Owen listened when she talked about her day. The gentleness he showed her. The respect he gave her dreams. The way he'd waited for her to be ready for every step of their relationship. Yes, he'd lied about his identity. But had he lied about his character? About his feelings? "I need you to promise me something," she said. "Anything. No more secrets. No more protecting me from difficult truths. If we do this, we do it as partners. Real partners who are honest with each other, even when it's hard. I promise. Complete honesty from now on. And I need time. I can't just flip a switch and trust you again. You're going to have to earn that back." "I understand. I'll spend as long as it takes." Talia wiped her eyes. "I want to see your real life. The house, the company, all of it. I need to understand what I'm actually choosing if I choose to stay." "Okay. We can go right now if you want." "Not today. But soon. I need to finish processing all this first." They sat in silence for a while, watching ducks slide across the frozen pond. "For what it's worth," Owen said quietly, "the man you fell in love with is real. The money changes logistics, but it doesn't change how I feel about you. It doesn't change that I think you're brilliant and beautiful and the strongest person I know. It doesn't change that I want to wake up next to you every morning and hear about your students and watch you become the incredible teacher I know you'll be. I need to believe that," Talia said. "I want to believe it. Then let me prove it." Talia stood up. "I'm going to go back to the cabin tonight. But I'm sleeping in the bedroom alone. You can have the couch. That's fair. And tomorrow you're going to start showing me your real world. All of it. No filters, no protecting me from the difficult parts. If I'm going to make a real choice about our future, I need to know what that future actually looks like. Okay. They walked back through town together, not holding hands but side by side. When they reached the cabin, it looked exactly the same as always. Small and cozy and unthreatening. But Talia knew now that appearances could be deceiving. Inside, the cabin was clean but sad-looking. Dishes piled in the sink like Owen hadn't eaten properly in days. His blanket was still on the couch where he'd been sleeping. "I'll make dinner," Owen said. "I can help." They cooked together in silence, the comfortable rhythm they developed over months returning despite the tension. It wasn't fixed, not by a long shot. But it was a start. After dinner, Talia went to the bedroom alone. She lay in the bed that smelled like both of them and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow she'd start learning about the real Owen Mitchell. The billionaire. The CEO. The man who lived in two worlds. And then she'd decide if she could find a way to live in those worlds with him. The next morning, Owen woke early and made coffee just like he always did. Talia found him sitting at the kitchen table, already dressed in the kind of clothes she'd never seen him wear. Expensive slacks, a crisp dress shirt, polished shoes. He looked like he'd stepped out of the website photo. Powerful. Wealthy. Unfamiliar. "Ready?" he asked. "As I'll ever be." They drove to the city in Owen's real car, which he'd apparently been keeping in a garage in town. It was a sleek black sedan, the kind with soft leather seats and a dashboard that looked like a spaceship control panel. So different from the old pickup truck. The drive took an hour. Owen spent it answering Talia's questions. "How do you manage both lives? The CEO stuff and the farmhand stuff?" "I work remotely a lot. I take calls from the cabin or the truck. Most of my executive team thinks I'm eccentric, but they're used to it by now. I go into the office maybe twice a week for meetings I can't avoid. The rest of the time, I'm at the research farm or working from home." "Does your father know about the cabin?" "Yes. He hates it. He thinks I'm wasting my potential by playing farmer. We fight about it constantly." "Is he really as bad as you made him sound?" Owen's jaw tightened. "Worse. My father believes money gives him the right to control people. He orchestrated our marriage not just to collect a debt, but because he thought you'd be easy to control. He thought a poor girl from a small town would be grateful for his money and wouldn't cause trouble." "That's horrible. That's Harvey Mitchell. He's a brilliant businessman but a terrible human being. I've spent my entire life trying not to become him." They pulled up to a house that made Talia's breath catch. It wasn't just a house. It was an estate. 3 stories of glass and stone, with manicured lawns and a fountain in the circular driveway. This was where Owen really lived. "This is too much," she whispered. "I know. I didn't choose it. My father built it as a statement. I've always felt uncomfortable here." Inside was even more overwhelming. High ceilings, marble floors, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. Everything was perfect and cold and nothing like the warm little cabin. A woman in her 60s appeared from a side hallway. "Mr. Mitchell, welcome home. I wasn't expecting you." "Hi, Patricia. This is my wife, Talia." "Talia, this is Patricia. She manages the house." Patricia's eyes widened slightly, but she recovered quickly. "Mrs. Mitchell, it's a pleasure to meet you. Will you both be staying for lunch?" "No, we're just showing Talia around today." Owen gave her a tour. 6 bedrooms, each bigger than the entire cabin. A home gym, a library with floor-to-ceiling books, a media room, a formal dining room that could seat 20. A kitchen that was easily 4 times the size of the cabin's entire living space. "Do you actually use all this?" Talia asked. "Barely. I mostly stay in one bedroom and use the library. The rest just sits empty." They went to the master bedroom last. It was enormous, with a bed big enough for 4 people, a sitting area, a walk-in closet the size of Talia's childhood bedroom, and a bathroom with both a massive tub and a separate shower. "This is where you really sleep?" "When I'm here, yes. Though I've spent more nights at the cabin in the past 5 years than I have here." In the closet, Talia saw Owen's real wardrobe. Dozens of suits, rows of expensive shoes, shelves of watches and accessories. This was the life he'd been hiding. "Can I see your office?" she asked. They drove to the Mitchell Agricultural Corporation headquarters, a modern glass building downtown. Owen led her through the lobby, where security guards greeted him with, "Good morning, Mr. Mitchell." Employees stepped aside as they walked past. Everyone knew him. Everyone deferred to him. They took a private elevator to the top floor. Owen's office was enormous, with a wall of windows overlooking the city. A massive desk, leather chairs, artwork on the walls that Talia suspected was original and expensive. A woman in her 40s knocked and entered. Owen, I didn't know you were coming in today. You have a board meeting at 3. Cancel it please. Lauren, this is my wife Talia. Talia, Lauren is my executive assistant. She basically runs my life. Lauren's professional mask slipped for a moment, showing genuine surprise. You're married? Since when? 4 months. 4 months and you didn't tell me? Lauren looked between them. Okay, we're definitely having a conversation about this later. Nice to meet you, Talia. And Owen, I'm not canceling your board meeting. Your father will lose his mind. Let him, Owen said. I'm taking the day off. They left before Lauren could argue further. Back in the car, Talia tried to process everything she'd seen. This is really your life. Part of it. The part one try to avoid as much as possible. But it's still real. You're still responsible for all of this. 4,000s of employees and billions of dollars. Yes. And you were going to keep hiding it from me forever? Owen pulled over on a side street and turned to face her. I don't know what I was thinking long term. I was living day to day trying to hold on to what we had. I know that was wrong. I know I was living in a fantasy. But Talia, with you, I got to be real. I got to be the man I actually want to be, not the one my father forced me to become. But you can't run from your responsibilities forever. I know. And I won't. If you decide to stay with me, we'll figure out how to balance everything. Maybe we split our time between the cabin and the city. Maybe I delegate more of my CEO duties. Maybe we build a life that incorporates both worlds. But it has to be a decision we make together. Talia looked out the window at the city skyline. So different from the wheat fields and small town she'd grown to love. What about me? She asked. Where do I fit into this world? I'm almost a certified teacher. I want to work with kids in a real classroom. I'm not going to be some trophy wife who attends charity galas. I don't want you to be. I want you to teach. We can fund whatever school you want to work at. Or you can open your own school. We have the resources to really make a difference in education. Imagine a school where every teacher is paid well, every student has supplies, every classroom has the resources it needs. We could do that. The idea was overwhelming. And tempting. Talia had seen firsthand how lack of funding hurt students. What if she could actually change that? I need to think, she said. They drove back to the cabin in silence. Talia's mind was spinning with everything she'd seen, everything she'd learned. The magnitude of Owen's real life was staggering. And he wanted to share it with her. That evening they sat on the cabin porch despite the cold. Owen had made hot chocolate and they wrapped themselves in blankets, watching the stars come out. Can I ask you something? Talia said. Anything. If I decide I can't do this, if it's all too much, will you resent me? No. I'd be heartbroken, but I wouldn't resent you. This is a lot to take on. I understand if you decide it's not what you want. And if I stay but I want to keep living simply? If I don't want the mansion and the fancy cars? Then we live simply. The money doesn't matter to me, Talia. You do. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust that the man she'd fallen in love with was real, regardless of his bank account. I'm scared, she admitted. Of what? That I'll lose myself in your world. That I'll become someone I don't recognize. That the money will change me. Then we'll make sure it doesn't. We'll stay grounded. We'll keep working, keep helping people, keep living with purpose. Money can be a tool for good if we use it right. Talia thought about her students, about kids like she used to be, kids whose potential was limited by poverty and lack of resources. What if she could actually help change that? Tell me about this idea of opening a school, she said. Owen's face lit up. We could design it from the ground up. Small class sizes, highly paid teachers, the best materials and technology. Focus on kids from low-income families. Full scholarships. Meal programs. Whatever it takes to help them succeed. You could run it, shape the curriculum, hire the teachers. Make it exactly what you think a school should be. The idea took Talia's breath away. Not just teaching in a classroom, but creating an entire educational environment designed to help kids like her sister. Kids whose only barrier to success was lack of resources. That's a big dream, she said. You're capable of big dreams. They sat in silence, sipping cocoa and watching the stars. Talia felt something loosening in her chest, some of the hurt and anger making room for possibility. I'm not ready to forgive you completely, she said. But I think I'm ready to try moving forward. Owen let out a breath he'd been holding. That's all I can ask for. I want to finish this semester at Millbrook. Do my practicum, complete my certification. I need to prove to myself that I can do this on my own merit, not because of your money or connections. Of course. And then, maybe we can talk about this school idea. And about what our life together actually looks like. Okay. But Owen? No more secrets. No more hiding things to protect me. We're partners or we're nothing. Partners? Owen agreed. I promise. Talia reached over and took his hand. It wasn't fixed yet. There was still hurt to work through, trust to rebuild. But for the first time since learning the truth, she felt like maybe they could find their way through this. Maybe love was stronger than lies. Maybe hope was worth the risk. January brought new snow and a fresh start. Talia finished her teaching certification with top marks, completing her practicum at Millbrook Elementary to glowing reviews. Mrs. Patterson told her she had a natural gift for connecting with students, for making learning exciting and accessible. You're going to be a wonderful teacher, Mrs. Patterson said on Talia's last day. Whatever school gets you is very lucky. Talia had hugged her, grateful for the woman's mentorship and kindness. Thank you for believing in me. At home, things with Owen were slowly improving. They'd established new patterns, new ways of being honest with each other. Owen had started being more open about his work, sharing the stresses of running a multi-billion-dollar company. Talia had started asking questions instead of staying silent when things confused her. They'd also started seeing a couples counselor, driving to the city every week to talk through the betrayal and the lies and how to rebuild trust. It was hard work. There were setbacks and arguments and days when Talia wondered if it would have been easier to just leave. But there were also good days. Days when they laughed together in the cabin kitchen. Days when Owen surprised her with small thoughtful gestures that had nothing to do with money. A flower he'd picked, a passage he'd bookmarked in a book because he thought she'd like it, a recipe he'd learned just because she'd mentioned liking a particular dish. Those were the days that reminded Talia why she'd fallen in love with him in the first place. In mid-January, Owen invited her to attend a company dinner. It's time people know about us, he said. I'm tired of hiding you. I want the world to know I'm married to the most incredible woman I've ever met. Talia had been nervous about the dinner. These were Owen's people, the wealthy elite who lived in the world she'd only just learned existed. Would they accept her? Would they look down on her small-town background and simple education? But Owen had squeezed her hand in the car. Just be yourself. That's all you ever need to be. The dinner was at an upscale restaurant downtown. There were about 30 people, all executives and board members and their spouses. Talia wore a simple green dress Owen had bought her, nothing too flashy but nice enough to fit in. When they walked in, conversation stopped. Everyone stared. Everyone, Owen said, his arm around Talia's waist. This is my wife, Talia. We got married 4 months ago. I know I've been secretive about my personal life, but that ends now. Harvey Mitchell, Owen's father, stood up from the head of the table. He was a large man with cold eyes and a fake smile. Married? Owen, why wasn't I informed? Because I knew you'd try to interfere, Owen said calmly. Talia, this is my father. Talia extended her hand. Mr. Mitchell. Harvey looked at her hand like it might be diseased but eventually shook it. You're the Brooks girl. The one whose father owed me money. Yes, sir. Well, I suppose the debt is settled then. He turned to Owen. We'll discuss this later. The dinner was tense but not as terrible as Talia had feared. Most of the other guests were curious about her, asking questions about how she and Owen met and what she did. When she mentioned teaching, several people seemed genuinely interested. A woman named Catherine, who sat next to Talia, was particularly kind. Don't let Harvey intimidate you, she whispered. He's all bluster. Owen chose you, which means you must be special. Owen never does anything without a good reason. After dinner, Harvey cornered them by the coat check. You've embarrassed me, Owen. Marrying some small-town nobody without even consulting me. Talia is not a nobody, Owen said, his voice cold. She's my wife and you'll treat her with respect. I'll treat her however I want. This is my company. Actually, it's not. I'm so. And if you can't be civil to my wife, I'll be happy to discuss your role in the company with the board. Harvey's face turned red, but he backed down. We're not done with this conversation. Yes, we are. In the car afterward, Owen apologized. I'm sorry about my father. He's impossible. He's protecting what he thinks is his, Talia said. I get it. I'm an outsider in his world. You're not an outsider. You're my partner. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows it. Over the next few weeks, Owen followed through on that promise. He introduced Talia to everyone important in his life. His executive team. His board members. The people he did business with. And every time he made it clear that Talia was not just a wife, but an equal partner in his life. In February they started serious planning for the school. Owen had his lawyers set up a foundation with $50 million in initial funding. Talia worked with architects to design a building that would serve 200 students. They hired an education consultant to help develop the curriculum. What should we call it? Owen asked one evening, looking at building plans spread across the cabin table. Hope Academy, Talia said without hesitation. Because that's what we're giving these kids. Hope for a better future. Hope Academy, Owen repeated, smiling. It's perfect. The school would open in the fall, giving Talia time to hire teachers and develop programs. She'd be the principal but also teach part-time. It was everything she'd ever dreamed of and more than she'd thought possible. One Saturday morning in late February, Owen woke Talia early. Get dressed, he said. I have something to show you. They drove to a property on the outskirts of town, about 5 acres with a small hill and a view of the wheat fields. There was nothing there yet, just empty land and possibilities. What is this? Talia asked. It's ours. I bought it last week. Owen turned to her, taking both her hands. I know you love the cabin, but it's getting small. And I thought maybe we could build something new. Together. Not a mansion like my father's house. Just a real home. Big enough for a family if we decide we want that. With space for your books and my projects and whatever life brings us. Talia looked at the empty land, imagining. A real house. Their house. Built to their specifications, reflecting both of their dreams. I want a big kitchen, she said. Where we can cook together. Done. And a library. A real one. Absolutely. And maybe a garden? Whatever you want. Talia turned to Owen, this man who had started as a stranger, become a friend, and somehow transformed into her person. I want a life with you. The real you. The CEO and the farmhand and everything in between. Owen pulled her close. Are you saying you forgive me? I'm saying I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us. I'm choosing to believe that love can be stronger than mistakes. Owen kissed her then, deep and full of promise. When they broke apart, he was smiling wider than she'd ever seen. I love you so much, he said. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret this choice. I love you too. Even when you're an idiot billionaire who lies about his identity. Especially when I'm an idiot billionaire who lies about his identity? Don't push it. They laughed, holding each other on that empty hilltop, planning their future. The school would open in the fall. The house would be built by winter. They'd split their time between the city and the country, balancing Owen's responsibilities with Talia's dreams. It wouldn't always be easy. They'd have challenges ahead, conflicts to navigate, Harvey Mitchell to deal with. But they'd face it all together as true partners. That spring they held a second wedding. A real one this time, chosen not forced. Talia's mother and sister came. Rachel was maid of honor. Even Betty from the diner attended, crying happy tears. Owen's father didn't come, but most of the company executives did, which Talia took as a sign that they'd accepted her into Owen's world. During the ceremony, Owen's vows made Talia cry. I promise to always be honest with you even when it's difficult. I promise to see you as my equal, to support your dreams as fiercely as my own. I promise to be the man you deserve, every single day. I promise to choose you over and over for the rest of my life. Talia's vows were simpler. I choose love. I choose hope. I choose you. Today and always. As they kissed, sealing their chosen commitment, Talia realized that everything that had happened, all the pain and confusion and hurt, had led them here. To this moment of absolute clarity and choice. She had started this journey forced into a marriage she didn't want. She was ending it by choosing that same marriage with her whole heart. Sometimes love comes from unexpected places. Sometimes it grows in the darkest circumstances. Sometimes it requires forgiveness and trust and the courage to hope even when you've been hurt. But when you find it, real love, chosen love, it's worth every struggle. Talia and Owen walked back down the aisle hand in hand, ready to build their future together. A future full of possibility, powered by resources they'd used to help others, grounded in the small town and simple cabin where they'd first learned to love each other. It wasn't the life Talia had planned. It was so much better. Because she hadn't just gained a husband or wealth or opportunities. She'd gained a partner who saw her, valued her, and loved her for exactly who she was. And in the end, that was worth more than all the money in the world.